that would be great. So everybody online and present will know who you are and what's happening.
My name's Andrew Johnson. I'm a lieutenant at Conway Police Department, and I've been there for 12 years
Hi, I'm Lacey Knipe. I'm the Public Information Officer for the Conway Police Department, and I have been there a year and a half.
Good evening. I'm Mike Winter. I'm the fire chief for the city of Conway. I've been with the department for 27 years.
Bart Castleberry, mayor. I've been with the city since 1981. Been there a little over 41 years, 33 years with the fire department, 3.5 years with permitting, and I've been mayor just about to complete 6 years.
Sheila Isby, Conway City Council. This is my 24th, 24th year. Aside from City Council, I work for Arista Health Counseling Associates as Human Resource Coordinator for the Central Region, and I've been there 26 years.
Hello. My name is William Tapley. I'm the Chief of Police here in Conway. I actually started with Conway PD back in 1996. I spent 22 years with them before I retired. I went over to UCA for a couple of years, and then I came back in July of 2020 as the chief. So I've been back about 2.5 years.
My name is Sergeant Dan Worley. I'm the supervisor over the SRO unit right now. I've been assigned to that job since June. I've been with Conway PD coming up on 11 years now.
I'm Charles Finkenbinder. I'm the city attorney. This is my second year.
All right. Thank you so much for being here tonight and answering a few questions for us. So at this time, we're going to proceed with our questions so that we'll be able to get those answered. And so the way the questions are set up, just so you guys know, it was put out that questions could be submitted. And so we're taking the questions that were submitted, and then we're going to present those to the panel. And so we're going to get their answers and their viewpoints on that and how it will build community relationships in our city. So we're going to start with Mayor Castleberry. Mayor Castleberry, how has creating the position for a diversity coordinator been beneficial to the city of Conway?
This actually all came about 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I had met the year previous with the Spanish-speaking community here, business leaders in the Spanish community. And a year later, we all got together again, and they asked me the same questions, and I still had the same answers. We had not progressed, not 1 inch. And so in visiting with them, and I think Alderman Andy Hawkins was there as well. Andy and I stepped outside and I said, "No, Andy, we need to address this, the diversity in our city." And from that, the council approved the position. We hired Shawana. She has hit the ground running, and she and her diversity committee is doing a tremendous job. They have free access to me. They have direct access to me through Shawana. But I think it's going to, from what I can tell, they're doing a bang up job, and it's going to be good for our city.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. My question is for Alderwoman Sheila Isby. How are you this afternoon? All right. All right. How important to you is diversity in the city within the ward you serve?
Just for reference, I serve in Ward 4. It's myself, which my position is a citywide position. And then we also have Theo Jones, that is a Ward 4 representative, and his is a ward position where he's elected by the ward only. Even though it preferences my ward, I'll just speak about diversity in each of the wards. I came on the council, like I said, 24 years ago, and even the makeup of our council was very different then. We had 7 men, and I was the only woman on the city council. 7 white men. So I think diversity is very important, not just in my ward, but in all wards, because I truly believe that people need to see individuals that look like them. And I think that's what Conway is becoming more of, not just in my ward, but in the other wards in the city as well.
Thank you for that.
All right, Chief Tapley, as you know, law enforcement is always going to be on the table when we talk about diversity. And so we got a couple questions. The first question will be directed for you. Um, there's been a number of changes and improvements made to the Conway Police Department, one specifically dealing with the Duty to Intervene program. Would you share with us a little information about that and so that everyone's aware?
Sure. And you're correct. Over the last couple of years, there has been many changes, not only within Conway Police Department, but in law enforcement in general across the nation. One of those things that has changed is the duty to intervene policy that you're referring to. I think it's important to point out that we have always had a duty to intervene within our policy. Uh, Prior to 2 years ago, it was part of another policy. It was our rules of conduct. It was there, but what we did is we stepped out a little bit further and decided to make sure it was a policy of its own. The reason we did that is because the new policy has guidelines. It's specific. It talks about exactly what an officer is supposed to do, in what situations they're supposed to do it. And then it goes even further into the fact that when they do have to intervene, and this is for all public service, if there is an intervention, it is reported, and then it goes into the responsibilities of the supervisor, and that they follow up on it, determine what took place, and any appropriate actions from there. So we really just further defined a policy that we already had, but it was a good step for us.
All right, thanks. Appreciate the clarification.
All right, Mr. Charles Fickenbinder. Yes, you, Charles. Tell us a bit about the HALO program. We're interested in knowing a little bit about that.
All right. So let me start by saying that as the city attorney, I'm tasked by the city council with enforcing the laws inside the city limits, including traffic laws, a lot of criminal laws. And the priority for my office has been safety laws, in particular child safety laws. So I just feel like the best way to enforce any law, especially a safety law, is not necessarily to prosecute violations, but to prevent them from happening in the first place. And that's really where HALO was born, was realizing that we had a school bus passing problem I was not aware of. And the idea was to increase safety, but to also partner with our law enforcement, who typically that's who everyone looks at when there's a school safety issue. Is everybody says it's the entire responsibility of the police department? Well, it's all of our responsibility. There's no reason why we can't step up and help out. They can't be everywhere at all times, but we can and are. And so that's really what this came about, was to say, well, we can increase safety. So one of the laws, for example, is that it's illegal to pass a school bus that has stopped to pick up unknown children and has activated its overhead flashing red lights. Just to give you an idea of the scope of the problem, and cut me off anytime, just don't throw anything at me. Just to give you an idea of the scope of the problem, Conway has 127, I think, is budgeted for sworn officers. And of course, they'll be split from shifts, so we don't have 127 on duty. You might have 20, you might have 15. Well, there's 70 school buses that run in Conway every single morning, every single day. So you can see, and they make multiple stops, right? So we've got hundreds of school bus stops. We don't have hundreds of police officers. And there's no way that they can be everywhere at once. But again, we can. So I knew that I had to prove that this would work. I couldn't just ask for volunteers. I couldn't ask for people to donate their time away from their families unless I could show that this worked. And so I made it my mission at Julie Lee Moore Elementary School 2 years ago to prove that it would work. And it did. It's just been an amazing transformation in a very short period of time, to where the first year out, in the first semester of the school year, we had 12, 15 violations of the law every single week. This year, starting back in the fall, we've had 0. And the reason is we've had 0 is not because of that skinny city attorney out there with a stop sign at the crosswalk. It's because people are inherently good. They just lost their focus. We all do. it's the same drivers this year as it was 2 years ago. Everybody's just looking for the kids. And there's one guy in particular sitting over there, Captain Ledbetter, who drives through there, and he'll flash the red lights at the kids, and they get such a kick out of it. But he's just such a huge part of it. And he's a good example of. And I've seen him do it. I know you didn't. I'm just going to call you out. Where he passed by my crosswalk one morning, and he goes down towards Riviera, and the light was green, but a kid had started to go across, and Captain Ledbetter stopped anyway and made sure that kid got across. So it's just kind of that partnership, and it's not just city attorney, police; it's city attorney, fire, citizen. Everybody steps up, and we can get this. We can accomplish it. So I said all that to say this: once we showed that it worked, then we started asking for volunteers, and we didn't get a lot because it's not an easy job, especially when it's 8 degrees out. It's hard to get somebody to stand out there for an hour to get kids across the road. But people just started showing up literally out of the blue. The first one was Miss Gail Amy, and who insists on being called Gigi. Can you stand up? So she just contacted me and said, "Hey, I want to help." She's got a lot on her plate, but she stepped up, and now she's out at Ida Burns every morning, and I'm here in waving. And even the junior high kids, anybody who's got a teenager knows that they don't give compliments a lot unless you're some kind of a rock star on TikTok. But even they say that Miss Gigi, as they all call her too, has made things a lot safer out there. And Donaghy's a fast road. There's a lot of traffic on there in the mornings. But she didn't stop there. She's also working out at not Florence Madison, but Phyllis Simon, at Phyllis Simon Middle School sometimes. But she's also out at Margaret Van on Salem, which is another problem road. And the next volunteer, entirely unexpected, as I rode my scooter up from Meadow Lake Church to my next bus stop at Sapphire in the afternoons, I see this car parked there at Sapphire, and a young woman was standing out in front of it. And I thought, well, this is somebody here to pick up their kid, and it wasn't. And then I thought, as I got closer, that she's some high school student that is waiting for her little sister. You look young. I'm sorry, it's not my fault. But Miss Denisha Knapp, who teaches at the Conway High School, and I walked across the street, and she said, "I want to help." And now she's out every afternoon on Meadow Lake, which is another really problem road we've had. Every afternoon, making sure that the little ones get across. And so that's what HALO stands for, is helping all little ones. And I just think it turned out to be very fitting acronym, because that's what these ladies are. They're guardian angels. And when it comes to the community and the diversity in the community and economic whatever, the kids that ride these school buses are from all backgrounds. They're white, black, Hispanic, Asian. They're from all socioeconomic backgrounds, rich, poor. But here's the thing. When that kid gets off that school bus, or when that kid goes to that crosswalk, all they see, when they see me, all they see is the vest. They see the yellow. Or in Miss Gigi's case, in Miss Denisha's case, they see pink, because they insisted on pink safety vests, which were really hard to find, but I came through. So it's not about what's in their parents' bank account. It's not about what area of town they live in. We're from country club to Washington and everywhere in between. And our goal is to put crossing guard at every crosswalk and a bus stop monitor at every bus stop. And I think we can make it happen. So I do think that it helps us to connect with the community. And these two ladies are doing it every single day. When that kid gets off the bus stop at Meadow Lake and Crystal Creek, that little girl sees Miss Denisha Knapp. When the kids cross at Ida Burns in the morning on Donaghy, which used to be a real dangerous area, they see Gigi.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Charles, thank you, and thank you too for your service. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to go to Miss Knipe. We talked a little bit before starting about fair, but I want you to tell everyone a bit about the Child Safety Fair and how does it target improving and promoting diversity within our committee.
They told me I had to have one of these for the TV. So if you're unfamiliar with the Child Safety Fair, which a lot of you are actually vendors and invited to the Child Safety Fair, so we invite children and families across Faulkner County to teach them about local resources in the community that pertain to safety, health, and education. Our main goal is to provide them with educational resources via informative seminars, demonstrations, and handouts. So is obviously encouraged to make it a fun and informative experience because it's kiddos and they like that kind of stuff. But we invited agencies like Carter's Crew, which is dedicated to serving at-risk youth. Their mission is to empower and educate the most vulnerable youth in our communities. We've got the Faulkner County 4-H program, which encourages leadership and teaches youth about life skills. And they have community engagement projects like that focus on science, health, and agriculture. We invited Paloma Community Services, which is a Hispanic nonprofit organization that focuses on growing the Hispanic community by highlighting their heritage, culture, and traditions. So the Child Safety Fair, there are a plethora of organizations that attend, and it's really just about focusing on the community aspect and bringing everyone together and teaching them about the resources available to them and just knowing, sharing your knowledge and ideas with those around you and lending a helping hand when needed.
Thank you. I was not aware that it was that detailed, but thank you for that.
Of course.
Appreciate that. I've taken my 3 kids to that before. Yeah, they did. For them, it's a lot of fun. They see it as fun. Yeah. And I think as a community member, taking advantage of opportunities is one way that we're going to increase diversity because when events are given, when things are put out, I think as a member of the community, I also got to have an effort to involve myself and engage those activities. So we appreciate that. All right, Chief Winter, what initiative, programs, or activities does the Conway Fire Department participate in that helps increase diversity within our community?
So I think one of our most populous activities in the community is the Crawl, Drag, and Squirt. We visit every elementary school, usually in the early spring. It involves from kindergarten through 4th grade. It's a little competition event, and it's open to everyone at the schools. A lot of times the principals or the PE teachers will put the kids through their own competition to narrow the field down. And we go to the schools, we run the competition, and that rolls over into the winners at Toad Suck Days. And this was actually started under Mayor Castleberry when he was there, and I think it continues to grow. We'll do a couple of open events, whether it's at Walmart or whether it's at Central Fire Station, to invite those that maybe didn't have an opportunity to participate. But we roll that into Toad Suck, and if you've ever seen the north end of Front Street on Toad Suck Saturday morning, there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of pride, there's a lot of yelling going on in that part of Toad Suck. And even though there's individuals racing and mom and dads are for those individuals, it's the strength of everyone that's there that lifts up those kids and pushes them. They don't care. They're there to run and to have fun. And they're doing it for mom and dad, but you've got hundreds of people yelling them on, and man, that's an awesome feeling. We have numerous activities that we're involved with. Over the last 30 days, we have 16 times we've been out in the community showing the engine to different groups, whether it's kids or whether it's a retirement center. That gives us opportunity to reach out and to speak to these people. Got my EMS division here tonight. They are active in teaching first aid and CPR throughout the community. Whenever someone calls, an office calls, a business calls, needing or wanting a certification, we send them out and to get these people educated and certified. We have one of our fire marshals here. They quite often go out and do fire extinguisher demonstrations to industrial agencies, to businesses. And again, that provides them an opportunity to educate, and to open the door and to communicate to the public.
Appreciate it. Thank you for that.
All right, lots of great information. Okay, my question now is going to Sergeant Worley. What strategies, tools, programs, etc., are used to help build relationship with students from diverse cultural backgrounds?
So this is this is still fairly new to me, being an SRO supervisor. So there's still a lot that I'm learning, taking in. I can tell you a little bit, about my background growing up, and one of the first things is being in the school is kind of jealous of growing up in a small city. I didn't get that opportunity to be around a lot of diversity. I didn't get to learn a lot about different cultures, different religions. Being in a bigger city around those people gave me a great opportunity to do that. So with that being said, I'm kind of jealous of a lot of these kids that get to be in that type of community or school program growing up. I had bad experiences as a younger kid with law enforcement, so I kind of had a black mark a little bit against them as growing up, and that was one thing that I kind of wanted to change as I got older. And along with a lot of the learning that I've spent in the schools, I had no idea what an SRO did until I became one, to be honest. And I've noticed there's two main things in a school as an SRO, representative of the community, police department, and there to protect the kids is engagement and positive reinforcement. Now, obviously, these are the first two things that I picked up, but engagement was huge because the school programs have a lot of extracurricular activities and different things going on within them, whether it be choir, band, orchestra, um, all the different sporting events, whatever you can say. And each one of those, are extremely diverse in themselves. And so I think it's great as an SRO to be able to engage with everybody throughout the day. Um, Again, I didn't know what it was, and I think being able to speak to everybody when you see someone, whether they're upset, their heads down, they're having a bad day, they got a bad grade on a test, just engaging that kid as they're walking down that hallway, talking to them, trying to put a smile on their face, cracking a joke, whatever it is, to show them, hey, yes, I'm a police officer in a uniform, but also I'm here to, talk to you. Trust me. I want you to come to me with whatever issues you may have, or I want to help you through whatever you're going through. And you get so much more opportunity for engagement in those schools than I ever thought. If you're standing out in the hallway between every bell ring, and what I'm talking about is I'm at the junior high, so this is kind of some of the examples I can give. And if you're in the hallway during every ring of the bell when they change classes, that gives you an opportunity to walk amongst all those kids and talk to them, engage with them, uh, make up a special handshake with them, crack a funny joke, give them a hard time about something, and just have fun. And I've seen so many kids that started out this year with their head down, their shoulders drooped, didn't want to be there, upset, and within weeks they're smiling because you have the same person engaging them in conversation and making them smile, trying to get them to smile, and so they're happier to be around. And I think with all that being said too is when I was a kid I made mistakes, I did things wrong, but also at the same time I wanted some reinforcement of when I did something good. So I think being able to reinforce as an SRO when they do something wrong, even if it's minor, you kind of be involved. Say, hey, here, let's sit down and talk about what we can do to improve on this in the future, and give them a little bit of reinforcement. And we had a kid that is an excellent basketball player and had gotten in some trouble last year. And so that was one of the things that me and one of the other SROs there kind of engaged in a lot of conversation with this one. Got into a little bit of trouble at the beginning of the year, but gave positive reinforcement. And I have never seen that kid be any more happy and being positive and doing good and actually get to play this year because he didn't get in trouble. So I think right now, for me in my position, those are the two biggest that I've noticed now. And I mean, I've only been there a few months. So I'm hoping that as this time goes on, I'll get an opportunity to learn a little bit more.
Thank you for that.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I can speak to that. I've been in it. I'm not an SRO, but what I do on the day to day, we utilize them a lot. For the last 9 years, I've overseen alternative ed, and so I've seen a number of SROs. And the thing that I appreciate about what they do is that they look for positive interactions. A lot of times we invite alternative education for some people are those bad kids. You know, for me, it's just a kid that needs alternative route to graduation. They're just misunderstood, and so I know a lot of times the SROs have came and had classes and talked about things and built positive relationships with those students, and it's made a big difference because I remember 9 years when I first started when the gangs were a little more active, it was a lot of relationships we were able to spin in a positive way because of that. So we know that's positive. So we appreciate that and what you guys do. Chief Tapley,
Back to me already?
back to you already. I mean, you're popular, man. All right. So you can kind of hand this one off a little bit, though. Would you update us on the implementation of RISA Health and introduce that team and let us know how that helps build diversity and community relationships?
Well, I'm absolutely going to hand that one off. But before I do, I'm going to hand it off to Lieutenant Johnson. But before I do, I have to take just a moment to brag on him. This team has been put together 100% because of his efforts. The grant that we received, the development, the implementation would not have taken place had it not been for his efforts. We are very lucky as a police department and as a community to have him here driving this. So I'm going to let him answer it.
And make my face turn red before I have to talk on TV. I do appreciate the kind words. And now I've completely forgotten the question too because you embarrassed me. So I'll introduce our team first and then talk a little bit about how we've gotten this going and exactly what we're doing. So you two will stand up and I'll turn the embarrassment from me over to y'all so everybody can look at them and not at me so much. We have with us our first community crisis response team that we have set up. Jarvis Kerrigan is our co-responder. He works actually directly for ERISA Health, partnered with Officer Hannah Fleming. Hannah's been with the department for five years. I remember that. Look at me. So what we've basically done is written a grant that we received from the Department of Justice that is focused on taking our community mental health partner, pulling them into what we are trying to do as a department of not just the typical law enforcement response of show up, if a law is broken, arrest somebody, if not, go away. And that's what law enforcement has always been. That's still what a lot of people think law enforcement is. But what we know, and I'm so glad we have the chief that we do, that agrees with me on this, that is not what law enforcement is all about. That's not what police work is all about. We talk about in our academies, in our basic first instruction that you get as a new officer, talk so much about that you're not just going to be an officer, you'll be a social worker and a counselor and a confidant and a support system and all these things. And then once we get these officers out on the streets, we tell them, all right, go arrest all these people. We forget that we just told them to do all these things. And so what we've done with this grant is gotten back to that because we know that's what the community needs from us. That's what they want from us. And so we've been very fortunate to drag Jarvis into this and to kind of trick Hannah into doing it as well, to where they team up. They work 4 10-hour shifts. They go into the community and they respond to the calls that are the calls for help. When someone is in crisis, and we define crisis very simply as somebody has gotten to the point where they don't know what else to do. And that's when people call 911 anyway. And so what we do is we take through some training with dispatch, a lot of training for them, some training for our patrol division supervisors and officers. Say if it's this type of call in which someone needs help without there being much in the way of any type of law broken or anything like that, they're going to respond, and they're going to utilize their training and their education to do some quick needs assessments, figure out what is going on with this person, and then utilize the resources that we have here in Conway to get that person the help that they need, knowing we don't have the expertise or the ability or the people to do it, but Conway does, the city does. I had a meeting this afternoon with Little Rock PD. They're looking at this and trying to figure out how they can implement it. And one of the things they kept talking about over and over and over again was how even Little Rock does not have the resources that we have in Conway. That's saying a lot. And we knew that going into this and just needed the ability and the opportunity to take advantage of what's already here and just point people in the right direction. And so it's to this point, it's gone very well. We're very grateful to have RISA Health on board and the help I know Ms. Sheila has done behind the scenes, even though she likes to think nobody knows that she helped out with that. I know that she did. And kind of dragging them to be a part of this because this is new and different. We don't know what we're doing. We're figuring it out as we go.
And I'll add that this is the first team. We are in the process of trying to find a second care coordinator now, pair with another officer, and then that will be our second team. At that point, then we will be able to cover at least a portion of the day each day of the week.
That was one of my added questions. So you read my mind.
Nah.
Nice. All right, and that was a question, Lieutenant Johnson, about how many calls have you guys had?
So I'll tell you the number and then I'll qualify that. So they've to this point they first started actually responding to calls October the 3rd. Since October the 3rd, they've gone to 114 calls. The thing about that is you have to keep in mind that that's number one, only working 4 days out of a week and only 10 hours out of that day. And then also a part of what we're trying to do is community engagement. And so they are spending significant portions of their day sometimes in the community at events or with these various resources that we have here in town just to engage with them to see how and what we can do to help the resources as well as to identify people that we need to reach out to try and help. And so there's been 114 calls. 84 of those were specific mental health needs. The remaining 30 of those calls were somebody that was just needing fill in the blank. We haven't defined beyond that to this point with our numbers. And then I think another number that's important to point out is 34 of those contacts, 34 of those calls were involving minorities. If you do the numbers, that's 30% of our calls. That's a significantly higher number than the demographics of the city. So I think we've had the opportunity to diversify our consumer base, if you will, as law enforcement. And we've had the opportunity to reach out to and make an impact with minorities within the community. And a big part of this is to start rebuilding trust or building more trust within the community. And having that opportunity through this, I think, has been very impactful, both for us and for the community.
Appreciate that. And just for those that are listening, I got a math major, so basically in 25% of the hours during the week, y'all have had 114 calls. And so we know that as the second team's deployed, that'll be greater. And being in education, we already know that the number of students with mental health needs is growing. So you have plenty of work to do. So we'll appreciate that. So I'll turn it back over to Ms. Danielle.
All right, just a quick follow-up question. Out of those calls, do they include people or persons with disabilities?
99% of the time, probably. We to this point we've been struggling to figure out how we're keeping up with our numbers and what numbers, what statistics, demographics to keep up with. Um, and so we have not gotten to the point of being able to specifically say yes, every person has this fill in the blank disability. But if you look at just, if nothing else, 74% of them, those 84 out of 114, have definitively had some sort of mental health issue, mental illness that have been referred on to ERISA and or Conway Behavioral Health, the Crisis Stabilization Unit, or other psych facilities or mental health facilities, both in the city or just across the state. Um, so at this point, I'd say a minimum 74% of the calls have been with someone with a disability. I think realistically, it's truly closer to 90-95% of those calls.
I'd like to thank you all for answering that call because in 2017, I did a training for the police department and the fire department on autism, and it was needed. And I think you all heard that and you all responded. So I want to applaud you for that. Great job. The next question is for Alderman Sheila Isby. Ms. Isby, how important to you is diversity in city council representation?
I think it's very important. As I said, when I came on 20 some odd years ago, we had one female and 7 white males. The diversity of our city council now, we have 4 females currently, another one that's been elected to replace a female, and we have 4 males. I guess age-wise in our city council, we range from, I would say, 50-ish to the baby of the bunch. Low 50s to probably 73. You said her. Oh, okay, yeah. To 73, we do have 2 African Americans. So as you can see, not just from the city council standpoint, but I think from the community standpoint, they have seen a significant difference in the representation as far as the city council. And again, I think it's important for especially young people to be able to identify that they can see someone that looks like them, that can relate to them, not just as it relates to color, but in age, different ethnic backgrounds, and things of that nature. So I think it's very important on the city council.
Thank you so much for that.
Appreciate that. And I think a thing to point out is that those are not appointed positions. They're positions that are voted for. So as we look at the makeup of such positions, we got to realize that we need more minorities running, more minorities doing those things, and then those minorities being voted for in order for them to actually hold a seat on some of those things. So stepping back, looking at things, really is like, well, it ain't enough. Well, we also got to make sure that we got the right people in place to even put in positions. So that's just my caveat to that. Because you can see something and look at one way, but those aren't people just choosing like, oh, we're going to handpick those people. That's just not how that works. And being on this board has helped me understand a lot with different things. And like, oh, I didn't know that had to work that way. And so the more we know, the more we understand. So back to you, Officer Worley. You've kind of already answered this. Once again, come with the police department. Y'all are popular. But how can the SRO program assist in improving student perceptions and relationships across all cultural backgrounds, especially students of color?
I think the biggest thing with that is involvement. I was kind of saying a little bit earlier, probably, to be honest, probably 75 to 80% of my day is engagement or involvement talking with children of, different color, ethnic backgrounds, religions. And I love it because I think we can learn just as much from all that as they can learn from us as being positive role models for them. But we don't get that if we don't get to engage them or involve ourselves in what they have going on. One of those things that I kind of tried to change is I think the SROs at their own schools do a really good job of this already. But how did we follow up with that after school hours? And so one of the things that I wanted is I wanted these kids who are getting the engagement from those SROs to see them outside of school at some of these school activities. So, for example, myself and Officer Boone engage with a lot of the kids at junior high. They see us every single day. So I made it a point that I scheduled us to work all the junior high basketball games so we could follow up more with that on a different background, and get to watch them, because we talk to them all day long and get to enjoy conversation. But now we get to see them do something that they love to do that they've talked to us about all day long, and they feel that support and that love. Like, hey, this is a little bit different. At school, we talk about things. You're there to keep us safe, but now you get to watch what I love to get to do, and you're here to support it. And I think it kind of goes into that positive reinforcement. So I think the biggest thing is just more involvement.
I would agree. I attended mental health first aid this summer as part of my educational PD, and they said the number one thing that a kid needs is a person that they can count on and believe in, and that changes all the difference for most kids. And so I think being there, it won't change the world, but it will change the impact on several kids on the outlook of what they interact with police. So we appreciate that. And I think I'm up next again. All right, Mayor Castleberry, uh, what has or what is the city doing to improve diverse community relationships outside of this board? We know the board exists.
Mhm.
What's happening outside of that?
Well, I will just start with my office. If you come into my office any day of the week, you will see Felicia Rogers, Shawana Rogers, or Jamie Bryce. These are the three people I work the closest with. I work with my other department heads, but I work on a daily basis with these three ladies. Two are African American, one is Native American, but these are the ladies who help me make decisions. If people will tell you if you want to get something done in the city, you need to talk to Felicia. Uh, she has a tremendous amount of institutional knowledge, as does Jamie. Shawana's fairly new to us, but she has stepped up and done a tremendous job. So I think from that aspect, what those ladies with their knowledge of the city, what they bring to my office is just, I can't even count it. It's just it's been worth everything. And if any of them ever quit, I will probably be right out behind them, because I can't convince you, I really can't relay how much they impact my decisions daily. They're the three people that I bounce everything off, and my wife, who loves telling me where I'm wrong. But ladies, I couldn't do it without you, and thank you. As far as this, I go back to Shawana and the committee. This is what we're trying to do in the city, and a lot of different folks on that committee with a lot of great ideas and a great love for this city and one another.
Appreciate it, man.
All right, this next question goes to Mr. Fickenbinder. How is the HALO program beneficial to building diversity in community relationships?
This will actually be short. Hold your applause. Hold your applause. So I think it's real simple, and it goes back to what I said before. When one of the things that we're hoping for, and I think we're achieving it, is when that kid gets off the school bus or gets ready to cross the road to get to school. They see the same person every day. It doesn't matter what color that child is. It doesn't matter what background that child is from. It doesn't matter what socioeconomic status that child has. We see a child, right? Because these ladies are out there every morning and every afternoon, that child sees not an African American woman, not a white woman, but a crossing guard. That kid sees someone who cares enough about them, they're willing to show up every single day. And if that doesn't build a community relationship, regardless of color or socioeconomic status, I don't know what does.
Thank you for that. And again, excellent program.
I add my 2 cents to that. But they do see color. And that's the great thing about it, is that when you are a Hispanic kid or a white kid or a kid of whoever nationality or ethnicity or whatever, when I do come across, I'm having a positive interaction with somebody that doesn't look like me. And because I'm having a positive interaction with somebody that doesn't look like me, it causes my viewpoint of that person, of that background, of that skin type to be different. And so, though we though we shy away from it, it is great that the crossing guard is Miss Gigi. And I wrote your name down, Miss Denisha. And that they get that opportunity because it is a positive interaction. I'm an educator. And so every environment that that kid goes in and they get to see a black male educator, which is not a lot of us, it's a new thing that they get to see, a new role where we then have the ability to say, oh, that's a new outlook. That's a possibility for me. So though we don't, that's not the purpose. It is building a positive relationship. When they go home, their parents can be like, black people bad or white people bad. But then you're like, no, not Miss Denisha, because she's stopping all them cars for me. She's making sure I'm safe. So those small encounters could seem like something that's not a big deal, but can make a world of difference. So we do appreciate you guys. Chief Winter, back to you, sir. What are some ways, and this question's been brought up a couple of times, you may know what I'm about to ask you, but what are some ways you can or are currently actively recruiting and encouraging minorities to take the fire test?
College, your job fair, career fair, college days. I think that's common across the board. I did a survey on entry level. It was 3 or 4 years ago. As they came in and signed up, registered to take the test, I had a little simple sheet of paper, and it was, "How'd you hear about this?" And I think I had 5 different options, and only 2 options were checked: social media and word of mouth. And knowing the firefighter community and kind of, you have a lot of tradition in fire. And so, as I was speaking earlier about, we do first aid, we do CPR, we do fire extinguisher demonstrations, we show the engine. And when we do that, we actively engage in recruiting, no matter where it is. We're supposed to be at this Saturday at Willow Event Center. And I don't know exactly what the crowd will be, but we know that that's an opportunity to expand on someone's knowledge of what we do, encouraging them to test, letting them know what's available to them, what this career is about. And going back to that simple survey that didn't take anyone 10 seconds to mark a box, word of mouth is how most of those people showed up, how they learned about it. And that's what has worked. Maybe not to the best, but that's probably our greatest recruiting tool.
Appreciate that. I don't want to vary too much, but here's a question I'll ask. With word of mouth being the primary tool, and I know you may not have the data, how many people applied that were minority? And if it wasn't a lot, how can we utilize word of mouth through our firefighters to purposely reach out to people of color? So if word of mouth is the thing that's attracting, then I think we can expand on that. But we don't got to get into that tonight. It was just something that popped out to me as you were talking.
Yeah. Yes. Typically, we give 2 tests a year. Our spring test, and I can tell you 10 to 15% of the participants are minority. Our fall test, we don't have that, and I don't know why. But I have talked of different ways of trying to increase minorities. And, I think that's a decent reflection of the community. I think it's a little bit low, but to increase those numbers, we've talked about some different ideas and ways to get it out, word of mouth. Now, I'll shut up. The Ministerial Alliance. There's churches all across this city. They have bulletins, they have announcements, they have web pages. I think it's something I haven't employed yet, um, but it's something that I think possibly could increase our numbers.
I would agree with that. Appreciate that. Thanks for the feedback.
Thank you for that. Lieutenant Johnson, this question is going to you. How has the implementation of the Community Crisis Response Team benefited the city of Conway?
It's a hard question to answer right now. We're so new to this. It's not even 6 weeks into implementing the program, and I can show you the numbers that I brought and what I've talked about already. I think that's more of a question for the people we've served. And so I'm not going to be so presumptuous to speak for all of them, but I do know that we have gotten feedback to this point that is extremely positive. Um, I think one of the biggest compliments that we've gotten to this point has been the open arms that we've been welcomed with by the local nonprofits and resource agencies in the city, that have shown and talked about how excited they are to have this. And so I think that helps to show the impact we've had so far. I think in the future and moving forward, being able to look at some of our numbers of not just number of people that we have served and who they are and where they are, but watching that number decrease because they've had the opportunity and the ability to get people to the help they need. So moving forward, those numbers start to dwindle. I think that's where and when I'll be able to answer your question better than just kind of saying, I don't know, we'll see what happens. But to this point, we have gotten a significant amount of feedback from the individuals that we've worked with, and like I said, even more than that, from the places we have referred them to, that have said this is great, this is amazing. Why haven't we done this before? And I think that says a lot about what we're trying to do.
Just for clarity, in a 911 call, would they go out and be with the police or just them?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. It's a
Yeah,
collaboration.
I'll explain a little better.
Okay.
So what we've done with this is provided some training to our dispatchers that says if this, then this, and the ifs and thens are basically if you think there is any type of component of mental health, mental illness related to what is going on, they need to go. The caveat to that is unless there's a weapon involved, and then at that point our patrol division is going to respond. They're going to make sure that the scene is safe for them to come, and then they will come and assess and refer and do what they need to do to de-escalate as well. If it's an unknown, it's their call at that point. Officer Fleming's got 5 years of experience in doing this, so she knows what she's doing. She knows how to handle herself. She knows how to keep everyone involved safe, and that's the point of having an officer there in doing this. So it is at her discretion to kind of make that call. If dispatch says, "Hey, you might need to go, but we don't have any other officers available, but it might not be real safe," and then she's going to speak with Jarvis. They're going to make that decision of whether or not they can go, and maybe just Officer Fleming starts the interaction, starts to try to de-escalate to allow Jarvis the opportunity to stay back and stay safe. But then at the same time, anyone that knows anything about law enforcement response, once we get there, things may be at this level, and then they go to this level or they go down here. And Jarvis has learned that firsthand just in the last week. But it's very dependent on what's going on and what the need is, and what's been identified, and whether or not they can respond safely. And that'll make the determination.
As a social worker, I approve that message.
Appreciate it. Ms. Knight, did I say that right? All right. I wrote it down just phonetically for myself, so I'm glad I got it. What other programs that may not have been mentioned tonight or activities does CPD currently have or plan to implement to help with diversity in our community?
So recently, we hosted a hygiene collection drive. I wanted to do something during the holiday season for some of the local shelters that are in town. And so I started a program that's called Santa's Helpers. We partner with the Conway Regional Shared Governance and the Centennial Bank, and we have collected over 1,400 hygiene products to deliver to the local shelters. And that ranges, from, what hygiene products are: deodorant, shampoo, body wash, all of that stuff. And hygiene is incredibly important for your overall health as a person. And we just felt this would be a great way for, our department and the community to give back. We've even had local businesses and individuals donate to the program that reached out to us via Facebook and social media that were just like, we would love to help and give back. And we have also we have a program called Cops and Coats, which you've probably heard of, maybe not, but that's a program that's been going on for a while now, and we receive grant funding for that, where we purchase coats for for children of low income families in the Conway community, and they're able to apply on an application via our Facebook page. I this year I contacted school counselors and told them, get the parents to sign up. We want to be able to give as many coats as we can. Last year we gave roughly 100 coats. This year funding was a little less, so we gave about 70 coats. But it's a positive interaction for our officers as well as the children, because we personally deliver those coats to homes. And, there's nothing quite like getting a brand new winter coat with the tags attached. And the fun part is choosing all the colors and fun patterns on the coats. And you mentioned that you were a counselor and you also taught a class about, autism and law enforcement involvement. I just went to the Law Enforcement Torture Run International Conference for Special Olympics, and that was just utterly amazing. And I learned so much, and I hope to bring knowledge back from that conference and, integrate that into law enforcement officers interacting with people with intellectual disabilities and things like that. Sorry. So on November 30th, we are distributing to the Bethlehem House, Haven House, and the Conway Ministry Center. And then the women's shelter is going to do a pickup. And so it's delivering to those shelters. The shelters I called around when I first thought about creating this program, and just like I asked, what do you need? And everyone said hygiene products. That's what we never have enough of that.
Appreciate that. Uh, at this time, it could kind of concludes the question for most of the panel members. So I'm going to turn it over to Shawana, and I think some of our board members have some questions that they want to ask.
Let's give our moderators of the panel a hand. Yes, and we do have two of our city aldermen and alderwomen here. Alderman David Grimes is in the back. I think Sheila called him the baby of the group earlier when she was talking about the ages. And we have Alderwoman Miss Ann Tucker here with us tonight. So we appreciate them taking time, as well as you all, out of your schedule to join us, and we thank you for that. At this time, or this part of the program, we had some questions that were submitted by community members, and our Diversity Council will be answering some of those questions. Corey Parks, I think you're up first. Yep. You're supposed to ask the question, sorry. He's not answering it, he's asking it. He's like, I'm finna go, I ain't asking.
Give me the mic, I'm gonna keep it all night. Mic check, 1, 2. Okay, I'm just gonna holler into it. So this again is related to the some recent Conway School Board action that have been taken. And so this person has submitted, the Conway School Board made a bad call, according to them, regarding the LGBTQ plus community. In what ways does your Diversity Council plan on helping this community here in Conway? I don't know who I was asking that to.
Well, I will say so. The Diversity Advisory Council was birthed from, if you all can remember, some years back. The city of Conway had the Conway Community Race Relations Initiative. It was CRY. So when I came in as the diversity coordinator, the question became, how do we get citizens involved with diversity? And we began to look at CRY. At the time CRY was established, it was to build relationships around race relations. So that's where that particular initiative started. So that's where the Diversity Council was birthed from. At the time the Diversity Advisory Council came forth, our country was in a state of social unrest, and it was kind of crazy with the George Floyd and the things that were going on. And we thought that it would be imperative to have some citizens together that can focus on race relations, building diversity within our community, and that's where that is birthed from. So our goals, as Ralph stated earlier, or the Diversity Council's goals that we established as a council, were to focus on those three objectives built around building relationships between racial and ethnic backgrounds. And that would be our focus. And we'll kind of gauge that as we go along. And at some point, we do plan to look at other things. But at this time, that's the primary focus of the council.
All right. Meg, you got a question?
Is for Mayor Bart Castleberry. The question I received was, how has the creation of the Diversity Advisory Council benefited the city of Conway?
Appreciate that response. Jalen?
All right, a Conway citizen submitted a question for Ms. Shawana, and their question was, do you all plan on partnering with others to make more of an impact here in Conway? More specifically, do you plan on partnering with organizers of pride events, Hispanic culture events, etc.?
I will say we do plan on having events in the future, but it still kind of goes back to that first initial question. Our primary focus at this time is building the diversity and community relationships. Those were the three primary goals that were established by the council, and that is our focus. But we do have a major event that is coming up on next year as far as celebrating diversity. You'll be hearing more about that. So if you would keep your eyes and ears open for different advertising and promotions as it relates to that. But I will say at some point we do plan to expand, but currently we are building those relationships in the community as it relates to racial and ethnic backgrounds. We're building those bridges. Yes. And it kind of narrowed it down. And that kind of goes back to what Ralph said earlier in the meeting. There are so many different aspects that you can take diversity, and it is so broad. So when we started that first year, again, I appreciate the council that started, and we do have two new members, but the council that started and that are still here, because we went through some rough patches. It was a new council, we're just getting established, and anybody that has been a part of a board, it's easy when you can slide into something that's already established because they've already outlined the goals and objectives. When starting something new, it's kind of rocky because you're trying to outline what that looks like. Well, I will say we probably had every wall in this room filled with stuff that we could do with diversity. So we had to narrow it down to things that we could realistically do and make sure that we involved our community. So as we begin to talk about that, we begin to focus on things that, for one, we looked at CRY being a part of something that was already pre-established. And then we looked at what was going on in our community or the country as a whole with George Floyd. And we were like, this is something that we need to focus on and start from this particular point. And that's where we begin to build. So that's kind of how we narrowed down those goals. It wasn't a Shawana decision. It was a decision that was made by the Diversity Advisory Council, which are members of our community. So.
Thank you, Shawana, for your response. I'm sorry. There's one more. I think Ms. Isby had a question. I think that was asked. That I think is important. Uh, how have you seen diversity improve over the years, and what's one area do you believe we can continue to improve?
I think the way I address the way our city council is now representative. The thing that I will say is it's one of the things that you had mentioned. Everyone on the council is elected. They are elected by the city. And one of the things that I would like to see, I'm stepping into another term, and that will be my final term. So what I would like to do, don't look at me. What I would like to do is to hopefully find someone that has an interest in the community, what's going on in the community. Hopefully someone that is young, because that is where we are going to need those individuals that are younger to be able to step in and to be able to look at different things in the city, the growth of the city. So I think where that diversity comes in, it's kind of like I tell people, you can sit back and wait for the change to come, or you can step in and be the change maker.
So when's your final term ending?
My final term will end in 2028.
All right, so people, we got 6 years to get something together. All right, so
2026.
2026.
Yes, I'm sorry.
All right, 4 years. So
4
hey,
years.
4 years. It's all good. All right. Chief, we asked Chief Winter this question. So, Chief Tapley, are there any specific programs or tactics that the Conway Police Department is using to try to recruit minorities to the police department?
Sure, there is. Much like he said, one of the major ways that we recruit is through social media. But in social media, you're not really focusing it toward diversity. It's just an easy way to expand it. But what we have done is several years ago we started working with University of Central Arkansas through their police and society class. We had the opportunity to go present to the class. We were involved in ride-along program with them, testings with them, mock testing, and it has proven really good for us. It has given us a much more diverse applicant pool. So what we have started doing is expanding out beyond University of Central Arkansas. We are now going to Russellville Tech. We are going to UALR in Little Rock. And quite honestly, where are you going to find a more diverse group that is going to make a change in our future than college campuses?
Gotcha. Appreciate that. Mr. Shawana? Was closing out.
Again, thank you all for your time and your commitment to being with us on tonight, and thank those that are watching on our YouTube channel or Channel 22. Can we give our diversity moderators and diversity council a hand? And equally as important, can we give our panel a hand? Thank you all so much. Good, healthy, quality discussion. I'm not going to take up any more of your time. We have been in here about a good hour and 20 minutes, and we appreciate you all. And make sure that you keep your eyes and your ears open, because we will be having more of these community roundtables on different topics and discussions that go along with the goals outlined for the Diversity Council. And I'm going to put a plug in there. We also do community development as well. We are excited about our overnight emergency shelter that will be coming online. I just had to throw that out there to also help with another diverse part of our population, which is our homeless population. So we are really excited about that. So thank you all. Have a great night and have a great weekend. Happy Veterans Day early, because it's tomorrow. So thank you all. And again, thank you, Alderman Grimes, and thank you, Alderwoman Tucker.
going to let him answer that.
And I have to say thank you to my team. Alicia, Jamie, Robbie, thank y'all so much. Appreciate you. I didn't have to say it again. Thank y'all. Good night.